Just gonna wait a few seconds for everyone to jump on. And then we'll start, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our podcast. I'm here with Ahsan Tarar. I'm gonna let Ahsan introduce himself, and then we'll get into the discussion, inshallah. Go ahead, Ahsan.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ahsan. I am with Keller Williams Domain, and I've been a real estate agent and an investor for about 5 to 6 years now. And thanks for having me.
Sounds good. We're happy to have you, man. We're gonna go right into it. So Ahsan started this little project called Tiny Homes, and that's kind of why I brought him on here to the podcast to ask him about this. So I have a question. Question number one, Ahsan, when it comes to tiny homes, meaning small homes, right? How can small homes bring me a profit or even more profit than me investing in like a traditional house or traditional real estate?
Okay, so the way you have to look at a tiny home versus a standard home. When somebody is investing in a, let's say, 1,500 square feet house or even 2,000 square feet house, which most people in Warren, Hamtramck do, when you're investing, you have to look at what it's going to take to get the home up to code and how much the rental home is going to bring in investment throughout the year.
So
income.
how much you need for the code and how much income I'm gonna get.
Correct.
So cost and income.
Correct. So the biggest way of factoring if you're gonna be profitable or not is determining the money in versus money out. So for example, let's say we buy a 2,000 or let's say a 1,500 square feet house.
Okay.
On an average, on a 1,500 square feet house, the living room itself is usually anywhere from 10 to like about 12 feet by 15 feet. General normal size living room.
Yeah.
That alone, if you do the math, like let's say a standard 15 by 14, you're looking at 260 square feet alone just for the living room. Then you have your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedrooms. It adds up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So now let's say you the house you're buying, you're looking to renovate it. The cost of materials for that 1,500 square feet house, the painting, everything adds up very quickly.
This is a standard home.
A standard home.
Yeah, okay.
Now comparing it to a tiny home,
Okay.
where once again, let's say the standard home, the living room itself is 260 square feet.
Right.
The whole house itself now, a tiny home is 550 square feet.
Wow.
Which is the one that I've been
A
posting
third
about.
a third of the square.
Exactly. So now when I'm buying materials, out of the 550 square feet, let's say the flooring itself, it's only 250.
Yeah, it's nothing almost.
Exactly right. The kitchen itself is very tiny. The bathroom is very tiny. Basement is tiny. So my material cost drops down to a third as well. And on top of that, when the contractors are pricing out the renovation cost, they base it off of square feet as well. So rather than painting a 1,500 square feet home, they're painting a 500 square feet home and so forth with everything else.
Same thing with code.
Correct. Now, when it comes to
By the way, what do you mean by code? Let's just define that. What do you mean by up to code?
Yeah.
For people who are first-time investors, what does that mean?
So when you're buying a house, you have to make sure there's no code violations, meaning that there's no safety issues, there's no trip hazards.
The city would be against.
The city will be
The city has
against
to
it.
approve it.
Correct. They just want to make sure when you're renting it out that you're not a slumlord, that
Okay.
you're actually taking care of the issues in the house.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so they want to make sure the tenants are protected. This helps out both the city and the investor, because the investor, it protects you from the lawsuits. Let's say if the tenant gets injured in your home, and it's something that's off of something that's not up to code, right? Let's say
Right.
there was a trip hazard, you never fixed it, even though the city asked you to fix it. They tripped, they broke their arm, and now they want to sue you. So you want to make sure when you put a tenant inside of your home, it's always up to code and has a rental certification.
Okay, so quick follow-up question. How is it going to be profitable? Because if it's only like 500 square feet, what's my income? I got the expenses less. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the income.
So when I rent out these houses, my goal is to get Section 8 or any type of government housing. It could be Section 8, there's student housing, there's immigrant housing, there's quite a bit different things that's available that
Okay.
the government assists on paying for the rent.
Nice.
They don't discriminate on size.
Nice.
They do not care if it's a tiny hut or
Nice.
if it's a mansion.
Okay.
Their criteria is by bedrooms. So
Okay,
let's
gotcha.
say a 2,000 square foot 2-bedroom house is gonna give me the same rent as a 550 2-bedroom house.
That's exactly how it works.
Exactly how it works. They do not discriminate with the size. They do not discriminate.
They don't
with
care
the
how
area.
big the bedroom size is and stuff like
They
that.
do not care as long as it has a door, a window, and a closet.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure that it's a bedroom. And
Okay.
even in the older homes, sometimes these older homes don't have closets.
Yeah.
They're okay with that too.
Okay.
As long as it has a bedroom, door, and a window.
Good. This is good to know. So it is profitable because you can pretty much go through that route. What if like this whole Section 8 thing? How does that work? This side comment. Is it on certain cities, certain areas? Can you explain about that a little bit?
So every city has their Section 8 housing authority.
Mm-hmm.
But the more suburban areas that you go into,
Yeah, that's
you know, they have their different rates, whatever the
yeah.
case might be. But the more,
For an investor, where they should look, where should they look? And they'll go. This will go to my next question, pretty much,
yeah,
right? I guess like when you're looking for these houses, you're filtering through. I'm sure there's a bunch of tiny homes.
you're right.
What do you do to figure out what process do you use? What strategy
Mm-hmm.
do you use to figure out like this is the right house for me to invest in?
Yeah, so if you Google Section 8 housing
Uh-huh.
rent amounts, they'll have a whole section with zip codes in your state.
Okay,
And
pay attention to that's important.
yeah, so it'll actually have a list of all the zip codes, and
Okay.
you click on the zip code, and it'll give you how much rent they will pay for a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so forth.
Okay.
It'll tell you. So based off of that, like in my vicinity, I live in Troy.
Yeah.
So you know, basically all of Metro Detroit is within my vicinity, driving
Yes.
vicinity. But I grew up in Hamtramck, so I know Hamtramck very well. I know Detroit very well since you know I've been in the area.
Yeah.
And being in real estate, I know quite
You
a
have no
bit of
option,
these-
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, being in real estate, I explore a lot of these areas to help my investors in the past buy houses. So I already knew a lot of these areas. So when I looked in the sheet where it has the zip codes, I'm like, oh, I know the zip code. This is right by 8 Mile of Van Dyke, or
Yeah, yeah.
this is right off of the
696.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So when I buy these tiny houses, I don't really care what area it's in, as long as it's in a below poverty area.
What does that mean?
So, for example, I'm not really sure how the city or these authorities define poverty.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
might say, average median
But
income.
they have a set rate. Okay.
Right. And you can find these in Google. Just
Yeah.
search up, poverty rate areas. And, they'll have like different zones, different zip codes, and they'll have color coded red, green, blue, whatever terms that they have.
Yeah.
You just look at these areas. The lower the median income is,
Uh-huh.
the better your rental income will be, because
Okay.
in those, quite frankly, when somebody's yearly income is $20,000, $30,000 a year,
Yeah.
it's going to be difficult for them to buy a house.
Of course,
So
yeah.
they are resort to government housing,
Okay.
which they need help from Section 8 to pay for their house.
Ah.
So those are the areas where I like to buy houses in, because I know people need assistance.
So let me break that down again. Let me summarize. You tell me if I got it right, okay?
Yeah.
So basically, we're looking at places that have small homes with a certain number of bedrooms. We don't really care about how big the house is or how big the bedrooms are, so long as the number matches my number for my Section 8 requirements. That's the first thing. Second thing is I'm looking into areas that are right below the poverty line. Is that what it is? Because it's
Yeah.
harder for those individuals to buy houses, but we know Section 8 will help them pay, and they're not paying from their own pocket. They're getting a voucher from Section 8.
Correct.
So you're kind of contributing to that economy over there. You're helping revitalize that economy, but you know where to look now.
Correct.
So I'm not looking. Am I looking into Warren for this, or am I not looking into Warren for
So
this?
actually, I wanted to make a
Because
little
Warren is
correction.
the hot spot, right, for us.
It is. So I actually wanted to make a correction. So I said below the poverty line. I should be saying right around the poverty line. So
Okay,
it could be
around
right
it.
above it, right below it.
Okay, sure.
So anywhere near the poverty.
Got it.
Now, historically speaking, if you're from Metro Detroit area, you'll know 8 Mile is the historic dividing line between
Yeah.
poverty and
Eminem taught us that.
Exactly right, 8 Mile Road, right? So the houses that I have are literally right off of 8 Mile Road and right below 8 Mile Road.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so that's the area that I like to generally invest in because it's right by the poverty line. The
Okay.
more north you go in this area,
It gets
the
more
it
expensive.
gets more expensive, right? So for example, one of the houses that I found was on 8 Mile in DeQuinder, which is right below
Yeah.
the 8 Mile Road. And it's a 550 square feet house.
Yeah.
It's a 2-bedroom house, and the Section 8 rent for that home is $1,200 a month.
I'll add on to your story. I have an investor from California. He found me on Facebook, and I helped him purchase a property on 8 Mile Road,
Nice.
right? And he's getting Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, his mortgage is like I think 800,
Right.
and his Section 8 is giving him about 1,400.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's like a huge, and people are looking. I know people want. I mean, if you are, I feel like if you want to be an investor, you have to take on the risks. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
I feel like, at least in my experience, everyone wants to take a safe route. But what has been your experience? Do you think that makes sense? How safe can you be when you're investing, man?
So you have to take the risk. There is just no way. Like investments are a risk.
Right.
Whether if you're investing in a 401k, stocks, whatever the case might be, any investment is
Yeah.
a risk because there's always that fine line details like in the fine print saying, you could lose all your money.
Yeah.
But in this way, when you're buying a house, you actually have a tangible asset.
Yeah.
You're looking at, okay, like this some investment made me go broke.
If
But hey,
stocks go down, it just went down.
yeah.
But what the house, I have a piece of property.
Correct. Even when the markets crash, the values go down, but your rent will stay the same. The Section 8 will still continue paying your rent. It does not matter if you bought the house for 50 grand, now it's worth 10.
Yeah.
It does not matter. They're just gonna continue paying the rent, the same rent. And in most cases, they will increase the rent every year as well too if you ask them for it. So that does not matter. And then eventually, when the economy picks back up, the values for those houses will go right back up as well.
Okay, so you've spent some time looking into houses, getting a few houses of your own, helping other people get houses. You're at a point where you reached 22 units, right? What did you learn along that process, that journey of reaching 22 units, and what does 22 units mean?
Okay, so 22 units basically means 22 separate rental units essentially. So it doesn't mean 22 different properties, because I do have some that are multifamily.
Okay.
Some houses have 2 units, some have 3 units. And then besides that little side fact, so these 22 homes are not completely owned by myself.
Okay.
It's by my investment group that I have put together.
Okay.
So it's I have 3 partners that work with me.
Okay.
And together we have 22 units.
Okay.
So we put our resources together to buy more houses. And then of course, each person brings their own special talents in it and help us grow from there as well.
Okay, so I want to kind of clarify something. So when people say they have 22 units, sometimes it feels like that one person himself is like a big shot landlord, right?
Yeah.
In your experience, what does it really mean?
It means they have possibly a syndication fund behind them backing up their portfolios. People like to invest, but they don't like being hands-on, so they just become part of the syndication fund and help that individual or that group buy more properties. For example, Grant Cardone, one of the biggest real estate investors, he owns like 15,000 units.
Yeah.
He doesn't own all of that. That's through him raising money and everybody,
Other people own that, and he's a part of that ownership with those people.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he does syndication funds essentially. So actually he will be the owner of those.
Yeah.
Or his company
on
will
paper.
be,
Yeah.
You're right. But in reality, the money is coming from a pool of investors, where they all want to invest in real estate, but a lot of them want to be hands off, or they just don't have the knowledge into it. They'll dump in 50 grand, 100 grand, and say, hey, here's my money. Just pay me dividends throughout the year for this investment. And with that, they're buying houses.
And you said you have 3 partners. So here's a question that's a practical question for the viewers. How do people come across even finding 3 other people or 2 other people or 10 other people to work with? How does it even, what is that? Is that because you're an agent, you found 3 people? How can someone who's not an agent do this?
These are actually close friends of mine.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're friends of mine. They buy houses through me.
So anyone can do that.
Yeah. I mean, let's say you and I are involved in real estate and we want to buy houses together. Or for example, let's say you find a deal.
Yeah.
You saying, hey, Ahsan, I found a house in Warren. I love it, but I don't have the money for it. Do you want to partner up with it?
Yeah.
I say, hey, I don't have all the money, but I do have another partner that I can bring on.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 of us.
Yeah.
We have the money to buy this house cash. We can renovate it and resell it and do whatever we want to do with it.
Right.
So that's how the partnership's formed. But I have quite a bit of friends that wanted to get involved in investments. They wanted to partner up with me to buy real estate. But some of my friends, our mindsets don't align.
Talk to me about that. What kind of mindset should someone have when they're trying to work with other people? I mean, this is some people's life savings. This is a big deal. This is thousands of dollars. What's the right mindset to have to go into this?
So that's completely up to you. So the people that I was looking for is with people that had experience in real estate already. It could have been a negative experience, could have been a positive experience, as long as they know how to buy and sell a house. Okay. That was the one thing I was looking for. Another thing that I was looking for is somebody that trusts people easily, right?
That trust other people.
Correct.
Okay.
Even though, not blindly, but of course you have to do your research. You have to, make sure.
You don't want a skeptic. You don't want a hard-on pessimist, pretty much.
Correct. Now, let's say if I come up with an opportunity, because these investment deals, they go off the shelves very quick.
Yeah.
Let's say if I find a deal.
They're willing to jump on it.
Yes, I need somebody that will, they look at a house, they're like, okay, Ahsan, if you say this is a good deal, we'll go with it.
Yeah. Because your money's involved in it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're at risk as well.
Right, and it's not like something that bring up these investors blindly either. It's something that I would do my own due diligence on, do my own research, and then present it to them saying, hey, this is a house that I found, this is how much we need, this is how much renovations cost, let's move forward with it.
Yeah.
And it could be simple as give me a thumbs up, cool, that's all I need, right?
Yeah.
So we have 4 partners, as long as 3 of us agree, we'll move forward. But alhamdulillah, luckily the partners that I have, they agree, they trust me wholeheartedly. You know, they say
Alhamdulillah, that's good.
whatever deal I bring up to them, they saying you are, seasoned in this. You're investor
Do you not
yourself.
feel a lot of pressure because of that?
In the beginning, I did, but that pressure also came from my friends and family members buying houses through me.
Okay.
And they tell me, "Hey, you're the expert. We trust you."
Yeah, it's a big statement.
Yes.
You know.
My uncle, I helped him move from Hamtramck to Sterling Heights recently, and
Yeah.
he didn't really have a lot of knowledge in
Yeah.
houses, and he was like, "Essen, whatever you tell me is good for my family, I will go forward with it."
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my partner at the time, Nabil, and I was like, "Nabil, like this is what my uncle's telling me. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
this is a huge, burden on my shoulders."
Yeah.
He was like, "Dude, just be happy they trust you."
Yeah.
Most people don't even get that. So he was like, as long as if you would buy this house yourself and have your family live in it,
Yeah.
then recommend it. If
Just
you
do your
don't-
own due diligence. There's only so
Yeah.
much you can do. You
Exactly.
can't account for every measure, right?
Right. And that goes to, next thing with the partners is, if I'm willing to buy this house myself, I can, my partners will trust enough to buy the house with me. And to put it in perspective, when it comes to our decision making, the people that I work with, and they are well capable of buying these houses, renovating them, renting them out, or flipping them on their own individually.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not like they
They're
needed
not
a
just,
partner.
yeah, okay.
So the fact is, like, they know I'm in the same position too.
Got it.
So if, for example, it's a deal that I could have bought myself, but I took my my self interest out of it, and I said, hey, let's grow as a group. Let's all four of us buy this together. Is quite a bit of value into this house that could be added on. And they give the thumbs up. We end up buying these houses.
So with your syndication group, I guess this goes to the next question I have. I'm guessing people can work with your syndication group. Is that correct? Or how would they work with your syndication group?
So right now we don't really have a syndication with our partners. We're just a standard partnership.
Okay.
LLC group.
Yeah.
You
put the money in,
put
have
the
the
money
LLC represent
together.
the group. Yeah.
Correct. Now, the difference between a partnership and a syndication is when we're in a partnership together, all four of us have a say in what we invest in. A syndication fund is, for example, let's say you come up to me saying, yes, and I have $50,000. I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to invest. I want to be hands off. Here's $50,000. Buy a house with it.
You decide for
You
me.
decide, essentially, right? So that's what a syndication is. A pool of people bringing, a group of people pulling together money. And with that money, the person who is organizer of the syndication fund, they go buy houses or they do different investments. Different syndications have different investments.
If I'm a third person, I'm watching this and I'm like, you know what, Ahsan seems like an okay guy. Let me give him $10,000 or something, right? What are the risks for me? And is there a risk of me losing my 10,000 altogether?
Absolutely, that's with any investment.
Good.
That is.
And I want people to
single-
understand that, right? Because I think sometimes we don't understand what investments are. And that I hinted at this earlier, right? The whole people want to be extremely safe.
Yeah.
Personally, what I tell people is if you're not ready to lose that money that you're about to invest with, just keep it with you.
Absolutely.
Just keep it with you. Save yourself the headache. Save the reputation of agents and everybody else you're working with. Because if you own, for example, let me paint a picture. If you only have $5,000, right? But you want to use that $5,000 and you're like, you know what? I was gonna use it to get up, maybe fix a part of my house, but I'm gonna invest with this money. And then that money is gone. Now you're gonna be upset. The money is gone and your house didn't update. And the agent who's in the mix of this, let's say Ahsan is in the mix of this, he's gonna get a bad reputation, right? So my recommendation is always, if you're someone watching this, do your research about what your risks are. Okay, but you can't you can't have everything. You can't be like, yeah, I want to be like those guys who make a lot of money, but I don't want to take any of the risks they're taking.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. But here's my question: should someone work with you as supporting your syndication group? Let's say you were to create one, or should someone work with you as an agent and hire you as an agent?
So I will
pick one.
I'll get to this question in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're saying taking a risk with that $5,000, right? So I guess what you can look at is, would you rather invest yourself into something that you don't have a lot of knowledge in, or invest with somebody that can help you mitigate the risk, rather than being 100% risk? It drops. I know I'm just making numbers.
Yeah.
It drops down to 40% risk.
Right.
Now I bringing the the $5,000 option. I'm glad you brought that up because I personally have lost $5,000 in stocks.
Yeah.
But that's when it sucks,
Yeah.
And I during COVID time, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have a job in the next 3 months or not. I take $5,000, I dump it in stocks because everybody's like, oh, buy now.
Yeah.
I freaked out. I bought $5,000 worth of stocks. I freaked out when they dropped even more, and I'm like, oh shoot, like let me just sell it before I lose my full $5,000, and I sold it. And I made, I had $1,000 left, so I lost $4,000, right? So I didn't know what I was doing. But if I had taken that $5,000 and given it to somebody who is good in stocks and have them manage my portfolio, I probably would have had a couple. Quite
at least break even.
Yeah, at least break even. So now when you're investing with somebody that is creating a syndication fund or has a syndication fund with real estate, you want to make sure once again, comes to your research. You have to make sure that they are
Interview them.
Exactly,
Yeah.
interview them. Make sure they're seasoned. Make sure they have investment properties on their own. Make sure that they can show you proof of what they are doing that is showing profit.
Yeah.
And if they can't provide those profits, if they can't show you like, hey, here's my Excel sheet, here's a proof.
Yeah.
Screw it. Here's my tax returns. Here's the proof.
Yeah.
I am making a profit on these houses.
Yeah.
Then at that point, you can say, okay, that $5,000. I don't know what I'm doing in stocks or real estate. I'm just gonna give it to somebody who does, and they're gonna help me make a return.
Yeah. And I think it's fair for that person that's helping you to get a piece of that pie. I mean, think about it. They're taking on that risk and they're providing the knowledge and guidance for it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we kind of, I've seen people shy away from sharing the piece of the pie, right? In my experience, anyone who is not in a win-win mindset never wins.
Yeah.
You have to win with other people. If you want, I've had clients, mashallah, amazing clients, investors. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure you're taken care of. Just help me get this deal, and these guys go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And they're motivating me to a different level. And I'm sure you've had those experiences too, where people are win-win.
Right.
When you're win-win, inshallah, you will win. But if you're always thinking like, how do I just use Ahsan to the maximum ability and then just scrape him off and just give him a little bit, you're gonna end up losing at one point. Whether you go with Ahsan or me or anybody, this is bound to happen.
Right.
But let's go to the other question I was asking: syndication or hire you as an agent?
That's all completely up to you. Your long-term, short-term
Help
goals.
me understand that. Yeah.
So long-term and short-term goals, basically, you know your finances, you know your family, you know your whole life situation better than anybody else.
Yeah.
What does this $50,000 mean to you?
Does it make a difference whether I have the 50? Like, does my decision matter based on my 50 versus 10?
No, I'm just using 50 as an example because that's just the first thing that comes off my tongue.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay.
So let's say you have the $50,000 in your bank,
Yeah.
and you just don't know what to do with it. You want to invest or you want to renovate your house, like you mentioned, right? It's your long-term and short-term goals. If you think you can live without an updated kitchen for another couple of years, then invest that.
So keep a few years in mind when I'm putting that money in.
Yes,
That's a good question to ask, actually. How long should I expect until something
money.
Yeah.
So on average, whenever you're investing, they say whenever you're opening a business, you should turn a profit by year 5. Anything sooner than that, that's even better. By year 5, you should be turning a profit. If you don't, revisit what you're doing. Of course, you should be revisiting every year, but at the 5-year mark, if you're not making a profit, think of exit strategies, right? So you should always have that 5-year mark in mind anytime you're investing in real estate or any business.
Any business in general.
But now when it comes to investing with me as a realtor or through a syndication, once again, it's all your long-term, short-term goals. Okay. If you're okay with waiting, it's completely up to you. If you want to be hands-free, if you want to be more involved, if you want to be involved, then definitely use me as your realtor. I can help you find a deal. You can go in and start working on the houses yourself or outsourcing it to contractors.
And I'll share his content on the YouTube description if you guys want to follow him for more information. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you want to be hands-on or not, if you want to do renovations on your own or if you want to outsource everything, if you have the time to do it, by all means, invest in yourself. And when you invest in yourself, you earn more of the
you'll get a bigger
you're earning the full piece of the pie, right? But if you don't have the time to be hands-on,
you're super busy employee, you're working, but you have some money.
Correct. That's where you partner up with somebody like a syndication fund, give them the money that you have and expect a return from there. A lot of the times syndication funds, they have a not really guaranteed, but an expected return anywhere from 10, 12, 15%, just depends on the different syndications. So for example, let's say if you take a $5,000 or $50,000, put it in stocks. I'm not sure what the average 401k return is. I believe the last time I did a research on it was 6% return from 401k, but in this syndication fund, they're promising you anywhere from 10 to 12%.
Yeah.
So you make your decision. Do you want to earn 4% or 6% from 401k or a potential 12% from a syndication?
Right.
Now I know when I was in the corporate world and I had my 401ks, I had no idea what I was dumping my money into.
Yeah. They're deciding for you.
They're deciding for me. And
unless you cancel it,
Right, unless you are
going into it, picking yourself.
Which I don't know how to do. Of
Yeah.
course, that's more research involved, and that's more things that I want to get involved into. Like I just don't want to care about that, right? So I'd rather saying, okay, here, Hassan, here's my 5, 10, 15, whatever grand that you have saved. Here's the 20 grand. How much can I expect to return? I'm promising 12 to 10, 10 to 12% returns.
Yeah.
Of course, there could be a scenario where the tenants aren't paying rent, or whatever the case might be.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There are
Vacancy,
risks.
straight up vacancy.
Exactly, straight
Yeah.
up vacancy. So it could be the fact that, hey, all the tenants lost their job
Yeah.
in the 100 portfolio houses.
I mean,
that
how
have
did
it.
investors feel when COVID hit and people couldn't pay their rent, right?
Right.
And then government came in and said you can't kick them out either, and
Exactly.
things were happening.
So that's the risk when it comes to investments. Any investment always has their risk, and that's something that you have to be aware of when you're investing in this syndication, 401k, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, 100%.
Or just keeping the money in your bank account without any savings. I mean,
That's probably the worst thing you can do.
exactly right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
There's no.
I mean, inflation is
profit being earned.
eating up your money over time when you're doing that.
Correct, and a lot of people, they put their accounts in interest-bearing accounts.
Yeah,
where
that doesn't help
it
either.
doesn't help out either.
I think it's
and
2% interest too. That's the dumbest way to get riba. Yeah.
less than that.
Yeah.
I've seen horribly low interest rates on that. So it just depends on where you feel comfortable. A lot of the times people invest within their family and friends. So if investing with a stranger is hard to do.
Yeah.
So they always go with a friend or family
That's
member, and that's
everybody,
where I
yeah,
come
yeah.
in. If you want to use me as a realtor, I will help you. I'll guide you through the process of finding a home. Make sure from A through Z, buying, renovating. If you want to refinance, resell, or rent, I can help out. Or if you want to get involved in syndication, I don't have all the numbers yet. I'm working with my attorney to get everything situated. But if you want to invest in the syndication fund as well, that can be discussed later.
That's good. I mean, it's good to know. I mean, okay, here's my last question for you. You were working in your previous brokerage for about 3 to 4 years, and then you made a transition to Keller Williams, right?
Yes.
And it says, Keller Williams, domain, international, luxury. I have a two-part question. Okay, question one: what shifted your change to move to Keller Williams? And then question two is, what is this whole thing about luxury real estate? So maybe you can help me understand that.
So I had okay, I'll start with the luxury part.
Go ahead.
So luxury doesn't mean $1 million houses.
That's what everyone thinks, though.
Yeah.
People are thinking you're selling 2-3 houses a
It
year.
does not. No, luxury does not mean $2-3 million houses. Luxury is an experience.
Okay.
So professionalism, making sure everything that you do,
High standard.
high standards. There's no corners that you cut. When you're listing a house, does your realtor actually put a for sale sign up?
Signing your contract for a client.
Exactly. Signing your contracts for clients is not allowed. Everything that you do is,
I mean,
is high standard.
Yeah, well, okay. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about people who are like, okay, you know what? Let me work with you. You're my agent. Do everything, but I just don't want to sign anything. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah. So it's a mindset change, and then when I was with Omni Realty, that was always my experience. I never cut any corners. I always found ways to make my processes more efficient when it comes to selling a house, listing a house, or helping my clients buy the house. I'm always involved A through Z.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was already at that mark where I can call myself a luxury agent, but I never sold $1 million house.
Yeah.
Until I did.
Yeah.
Right. So when I did, I'm just like, this is the same process as any other.
It's all the same.
Yes. It's all
Same
the
thing as
same.
a commercial property.
As a 550 square feet house. It's the same process.
Yeah, same thing.
So then I actually had a friend at KW Domain that I met at Somerset Mall. And he was like, come take a look and see what we have to offer. It took me about a year and a half, I think almost 2 years for me to make the switch. I had the same mindset. I was like, hey, I'm not a luxury agent. I don't sell luxury homes. I sell, random houses all around Metro Detroit.
Yeah.
And then when I did sell the $1 million house, I was like, okay, well,
I can do it.
I can do it. It's the same thing. So then I went and spoke with them and explained to them hey, this is my book of business. These are the houses that I sell. And they're like, hey, luxury isn't $1 million houses. Luxury means is the way you do sell the house is you go up and beyond in professionalism.
Yeah.
You have proper marketing material. You don't cut any corners. You treat a $50,000 client same as a $5 million client. And that's what I mean by luxury.
And I think the clients also reciprocate that.
Absolutely.
The $5,000 client will behave like the $50,000 client.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something agents struggle with a lot. I've struggled with it. Everyone struggles with it, right? People I've seen people with extremely high budgets give a really hard time. I've seen people with very low budgets give a very hard time.
Yeah.
And then everyone expects professionalism from the agent side, but they're not willing to reciprocate that as clients.
Right.
But this is actually a representation. Like we represent you as agents, we represent you. So you have to reciprocate it. Otherwise, it's hard to represent you, right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, then you're just babysitting them.
Yeah, yeah. So the second part as to why I left Amin Realty
Yeah.
and joined KW Domain.
Sure.
I had quite a bit of clients that were looking for houses in the West Bloomfield area,
Yeah.
Farmington area. At that time, the blueprints there weren't enough. We were selling houses in Amin Realty, when I was with them, we were selling houses there, but we just didn't have enough blueprint there. So a lot of the times I noticed when I was
Blueprint, as in like you didn't have a lot of business in that area.
yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot of business in that area. There were agents selling in the area. There were agents from that area selling
Sure.
there, but we were limited.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the clients that looked at everything that they had online on Zillow, MLS. They're like, hey, we just don't like anything here. Do you have anything off market? I'll call my friends at KW. Hey man, do you have anything?
I see.
And they're like, well, this off-market homes are strictly.
You might as well just join us at this point.
Right.
Yeah,
They're like, well,
yeah.
these off-market homes, we can't really advertise them because we don't have the exclusive right to sell, so we can't advertise
Yeah,
these houses. But if you're with us, we can share these lists,
Yeah.
and this list is always updating daily. So then, I pondered. I spoke with brother Amin, Sam Amin. I spoke with Nabil, and they're like, basically they gave me their blessings.
Right.
Of course, they wanted us. They wanted me to stay. Of
Yeah,
course,
100%.
they're pretty good friends out of the real estate world as well.
Yeah.
They were sad to see me leave, but they gave me the blessing. They're like, we understand.
Yeah.
So I made the switch. And I just right now we were talking about scheduling this up. I was actually just leaving a house in West Bloomfield,
Yeah.
where my clients are buying houses there.
Yeah.
Just my clients were navigating towards that way. Friends, family, and I just need to have more resources in that area.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having an office space there,
Correct.
being more central to the location you want to actually cater.
Correct. And I'm Realty, they're great in this side of town, where it's Warren, Sterling Heights. I just wish they had a little bit more footprint there, which they are now.
Yeah,
It's
probably
amazing.
working towards it. Yeah.
Right, and who knows? Inshallah, if everything works out well,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll see what the future takes me.
So thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Those are the questions that I had for Ahsan today. Next week, we're going to be talking to Brother Mizan, and we're going to be talking about what happens with underwriting. So if you ever had headaches with underwriting, or if you're planning on buying a house, you should definitely tune in to see that. Ahsan, thanks for coming here, man.